This is the banging paper experiment. Now, for the banging paper experiment, you need, ideally, a sheet of A3 paper. Now, A3 size is twice the size of a normal sheet of paper, and over here I've got some normal size sheets of paper here. If you can't find a sheet of A3 paper like this, what I recommend you do is get 2 ordinary pieces and put them together and stick them nice and carefully and stick them together with sticky tape. I recommend this paper tape. We call it masking tape. It's basically paper sticky tape. I recommend that because it folds quite easily, okay? If you haven't got any of this and you can't get it, then you can use ordinary shiny sticky tape. But I really do recommend this. I think this is much better. So watch carefully. So I'm going to get my sheet of paper, okay, so my A3 paper, and I'm going to fold it in half first. Now, ideally, try and do it so all your edges line up pretty well, but it doesn't actually matter if they're not lined up perfectly. This still works, but do your best to get it lined up. And make nice firm creases, always fold them nicely, and do take your time when you make this. I've noticed when I do this with children especially that some young children, they get excited, they want to do it, they do it so fast that they don't make it properly. The secret is to take your time, okay, so take your time. Then you turn it around and fold it in half the other way. Okay, so line up the edges, okay, line them up. So they're about right, nice firm folds. Then you open it back out. Okay, so here we have a crease here and a crease there. The next bit is going to remind you a bit of like it is for some paper airplanes. I'm going to fold that corner there. Now you'll notice, if I lift it up, I'm lining it down along with this crease I made earlier. I'm lining that fold along with this crease. You see what I mean? So it's lining along it. And then you do the same with the other one. Just put that there. And make sure your folds are nice and firm, okay? And then you turn it around and do exactly the same the other end. Okay, so far so good. Now what I'm going to do is turn it around this way, because now I want to fold it in half. I'm going to fold these big triangles I made inside. Perhaps if I do it towards you, you might see what I mean. So inside, like that. Okay, and then carefully flatten it out. Again, you need it nice and flat. And making sure, just checking it, make sure your triangles are tucked in nicely and they're not creased up in any other way. So fold that back in. Now I'm actually going to do 2 more folds. One is folding that down, a bit like some of the folds we did earlier, isn't it? But look carefully again. I've folded it so that this edge here is lining up with this crease here. Watch again. It's lining up with that crease. That's very important, okay? Then we do the same with the other one. Okay. They can be touching each other, that's okay as well. You don't have to leave that little gap you can see there. As long as they're not going like that. Mustn't be overlapping. Okay, but they can be touching. So look what I did again. So I went from there to there. Okay, the last fold, really easy. Just pick it up and fold it in half that way. And again, flatten it out nicely. So your big triangles are on the outside. If you fold it the other way, you'll end up with that little line there, and that won't work. So we must make sure the big triangles are nice and clear on the outside. That's it, you've made it. This is what I want you to do. You have to hold it in a very particular way. Now, if I just hold it here and let it go, you can see you've got these 2 corners hanging down like that, okay? That's the bit you've got to hold it from. Now, you want to hold it quite near the end, rather than up here. Don't hold it there, hold it quite near the end, but make sure you get a good grip. So make sure you get a good grip on it, because you don't want to let go, okay? Good grip. You hold it in a way so that when we're going to swing this, or you're going to do it, I hope as well, you hold it so it's opening away from you. You can see what I mean? It's opening away from me, like a mouth opening that way. And I'm holding it there, and the back is pointing straight up. Now what you need to do for this is hold it up in the air. I want you, if you've never used one of these before, to hold it up high above your head. So it's pointing up like that, right up above your head, okay? I'm going to hold it a bit lower because I've done it lots of times and I want to show you what I mean. So remember, you hold it by those 2 points, hold it by the 2 points I showed you a minute ago. Hold it, but for you, hold it right up in the air. And what I want you to do, once you're holding it up in the air, now I'm actually going to do it in slow motion. I want you to do it fast. When you hold it up in the air, I want you to swing it forward as fast as you can, okay? So swing it forward as fast as you can. And I recommend if you stand away from anything, you don't want to bash the table or bash anybody if you're near them, not a good idea. Hold it up in the air and whoosh it right down like that, right down towards your legs, whoosh, like that, and see what happens. So if all goes to plan, this is what you should see happen. Try again. I'll do it a few times. I think you should do it a few times, definitely. It's a better one. Sometimes you do it the very first time, because the paper is only opened at the first time, it doesn't go quite as loud as the others. So always do it at least a few times, I recommend. Now you'll notice the way I'm doing it, I'm giving it a little bit of a sort of a flick really, aren't I? But that's because I've done it lots of times. I find most people, when they first do this, they really do need to get a good swing and do it really hard. But once you've done it a few times, you're going to realise that this can be done just by almost flicking your wrist as you bring your arm down. Watch again. And you can get it just as good, I think, usually. Okay, so one more time. So, what's going on? How come you hear that big crack? You've already got some clues just by watching it. This is a brilliant thing about science. If you watch carefully, you can often get all the information you need. Let me do it slowly here, or in a small space. So when you swing it through the air, what happens is the air that you're swinging it through, some of it goes up underneath that flap that you saw come out. Some of it goes up underneath. And because you're swinging it quite fast, it builds up pressure. It gets up in there and pushes hard from inside. And it builds up so much pressure as you're swinging it through the air that the pressure of the air underneath gets up inside and suddenly pushes that out. That's why it came out. Now, of course, it comes out, the air gets up, suddenly pushes it out, and when that comes out, it squashes the air on the outside, it squashes up against it. And when it does that, it sends a wave, we can't see it, it's invisible, but it sends a squashed wave, what we call pressure wave. A squashed wave travels through the air and spreads out in all directions. And eventually that wave hits your ear, and your eardrum, which we can't see, suddenly does that, just kinks in a bit. And when it does that, you hear it as a cracking sound in your ear. What a cracking experiment. Well, there's two variables that are worth exploring. I'm sure you can think of some others. The first is, do you think the sound you hear has anything to do with the size of this banger? If you do, then you might want to try different sizes. For example, how about making one out of a piece of A4 paper? Now, bear in mind, if you make it out of A4, that flap will be smaller. Now, do you think that'll make a difference? I do recommend, by the way, doing it first with the A3 bigger one. It's easier to learn it and learn how to swing it with the bigger one. Once you get the hang of it, once you get the knack, different sizes are easier. So, how about the A4? Will that still work? What about if you can find a bigger sheet of paper? Now, if you're going to use the same type of paper, so you keep it a fair test, this paper is the same type as that. Of course, you might be able to find an even bigger sheet, which we would call A2. Remember, that's A4, that's A3. Twice as big again is A2, the numbers get lower. Then make it out of A2. If you can't get A2, then maybe you can stick some smaller bits together like I described right at the start and make a bigger sheet and try it with that. In fact, if you had, say, 4 sheets of that or 2 sheets of that, you can make one twice as big again, couldn't you? And see if it makes the same sound. What about different types of paper? Because this is like photocopy paper or printer paper. What about using, say, newspaper? So get a piece of newspaper, cut it the same size to make that part of it the same, so it's fair test. Piece of newspaper, make the same thing, do it with newspaper, see if it makes the same sound. Basically anything you could fold, that's worth thinking about, isn't it? So we thought about different papers, different sizes. Anything else, I wonder?